Hey guys, welcome to another cabin project exercise. In this exercise, pretty much of the exterior has been completed. We have pretty much finished out the foundation and we got to start focusing on the interior of the building. So under properties, you can select the box, section box, and this will bring about a box that goes around your project. Once you lower your section box by using these arrows, this will allow you to cut through the project and look at the interior. Now, as you can see, we should have a kitchen or a kitchenette or a cabin kitchen here, and we should have a bathroom here, and some of these need to be worked out. We are also missing a shed back here, and one of the things that I was asked about was why do these handrails don't line up? It's primarily due to the fact that the rails have been hosted to the stairs, which come all the way up. So one way to fix that is to either have my base offset go down on these stairs or actually having these rails be base offsetted down to match this deck. Again, we lowered the deck by 1.5 inch to allow for a small amount of gap or a small amount of step up, which will prevent water from flowing in. So what I can do is simply select the handrail and make the base offset negative 1.5 inches, which will make them line up to the actual stairs handrail and they will be flushed. Now we are missing a small deck back there, and this would be a great recap. So under my project browser, I can go to first floor. If I reference my AutoCAD file, which is here, my AutoCAD file indicates that the deck that I have on the back end going from the water heater and the back door is 2'8", and it has a 6-inch step down, unlike the deck that's at the front of the building. And at the same time, it is 4 feet by 6 feet. So let's go ahead and draw that. I'm gonna go into the architectural tab, build panel, select floors. Now, originally we're using wood joist 10 inches, but we're gonna click on edit type, select duplicate. Then we're gonna keep the same finish. Everything stays the same. We're gonna make this wood joist 8 inches. On structure, we're gonna select edit, and instead of 9 1/4, we're gonna go to 7 1/4. Go ahead and press OK. Press OK again. Now we have an 8-inch deck. Now the height offset is going to be 6 inches, negative 6 inches. And we're gonna select our rectangle, and I'm simply gonna draw a small rectangle here. Again, one of the things I try not to do is to make the size perfect from the very get-go. I'm aligning it to the exterior face of the stud, which is right here. And I'm gonna do the same thing on this side, aligning it to the exterior face of the stud, because that's where my foundation is. I'm gonna use DI to get a dimension string across, and a dimension string across this way. This will allow me to select my outer edge of my deck and make this 6 feet. And then from here, make the width 4 feet. I hit the check icon. I have my deck in place. Another thing we need to focus on is, I'll click on edit boundary one more time. I want to span in the short direction. So I can select span direction here right next to the check icon and select my shorter side, and I'll do it here so it's visible. So my beams would span this way if I was to detail it. It's a small thing to take into consideration. Everything remains the same, but at least we know this is constructible. Now we can verify this in 3D. How does this look? I can look at the back end of it. As you can see, our deck steps down, and then we have access to our water heater in here. So let's go ahead and start with the interior. So we're gonna go back to our first floor. Now, when it comes to building a kitchen inside our REVIT file, we're gonna be looking at putting in components. And some of these components cannot be found in the actual library. They need to be loaded in. So because of that, I will provide all the links in the YouTube description below. So the first thing is we gotta bring our countertop in. And what I took the liberty of doing was, in plan, I measured out the length of the leg or the position of the sink. I also took into account the measurement for the second leg of our countertop, the placement of the countertop, the width of the actual sink, and the depth of the sink. So all of these things I took into consideration before I put this countertop in, and then we're going to go ahead and do that by manipulating the parameters. So under the architectural tab, build panel, select components, and from here we're going to scroll down to a countertop that is an L shape with a sink cutout in it. I'm going to hit the space bar to rotate it about its own axis, and then I'm going to snap it to this corner on the interior. So that's my backsplash that you see behind the countertop. Now I'm going to simply select the countertop, scroll down to where it says dimension, and I can shrink my project browser just a tad bit so we can see all of our length legs and all of these various different properties. Now for our leg 1, as we saw, it was 8 foot 1 inch. That's the distance from here all the way to the wall. Leg 2, as we could see in our AutoCAD file, that was 3 foot 2. So 8'1", 3 foot 2. Going back to my Revit, let's make this 3 foot 2. Now my sink location is going to be 4 foot 6. 4 foot dash 6 inches. Now my sink location to the wall, that pretty much means the depth of the sink, how far away the wall is from here. I'm going to make that 3 inches. Just trying to center it. The opening of my sink, again, the width was 1 foot 6, and the depth of the opening is 2 feet. So once I put those into play, as you can see, my sink is pretty much centered to the window. I could modify it a tad bit, but that's about it. Now what I'm going to do is go into the architectural tab. I'm going to go ahead and go under components again. And this time I'm going to look for my sink. We don't have a graphics that's showing up because my computer's overheating. And I'm going to go ahead and select edit type. And this sink I'm going to duplicate. And since we have a 24-inch wide, again referencing our AutoCAD drawing, 2 feet wide and 1 foot 6 inch in depth, that's what I'm going to specify. So 24 inches, and then this is going to be 18 inches. And I'm going to go ahead and take this away. Press OK. Counter height, 3 feet. This remains the same. This is the depth of it, which is 1 foot 6, 18 inches. And then the width is 2 feet. Now, ideally, if you were looking at a traditional sink, it would be at least 3 feet. 3 foot 6 is a little bit of a stretch, but we can go ahead and press OK. And then this sink, I can use the space bar again to rotate about. And I'm going to just go ahead and place it here. And then we're later going to align it to its last position. So AL, aligning it from tab select here, aligning the sink this way, then aligning the sink that way. So my sink is positioned. Next, I'm going to go ahead and place my range top. This is going to be a 30-inch wide range. Again, referencing here. So I'm going to go ahead and go back to my Revit file, architectural tab, build panel, select component, and under here I can type in range. 30 inches by 26 inches is fair. Space bar to rotate, place it along the wall, and that's my range top. Next, I'm going to go ahead and go under the architectural tab, build panel, select components. Now I have a small amount of counter space here. So I'm going to look for another countertop. I have a vanity counter and I have a 24-inch counter with an L shape with a sink cutout. Neither one of these work, so I need a straight countertop. So I'm going to select load family. Now, this will all be provided in the description, but for me, this will be under casework. Now, if you do have the Revit library, you will also find it under casework. You're going to go under countertops, and we can select our countertop here, which is just a straight countertop. I'm going to select open. I'm going to use the space bar to rotate about, select this edge. We can specify the length of the countertop. Again, under the AutoCAD drawing, I have to reference this. I can't just memorize every dimension. It's 1'3". Go back to my Revit file and specify the length to be 1'-3 inches. Now I can simply use MV, which is move, to bring it to my range. Now let's go ahead and put in a refrigerator here. Architectural tab, components. And here I can specify a refrigerator. We do have a refrigerator. Typically the refrigerators are 36 inches. 35 inch by 32 would be sufficient. Go ahead and place my refrigerator here. Now, for some odd reason, we need to specify where the door is. Something tells me this line is not where the door is. In order for you to see your interior elevation, you go under the View tab, and then you would select under Create, Elevations, and you can select interior elevations, but elevations work. Select here. It automatically pulls this interior elevation that goes from this wall to that wall, which is sufficient. We can look at it. As you can see, our fridge faces backwards. It's facing away from the wall. So I'm going to go back into my first floor plan. I switch by going through the tabs. I'm holding the fridge. I'm using spacebar to rotate. And as you can see that there's a line behind the fridge, which would indicate the back of the fridge. So I can use AL to align, tab select the back end of the wall, and then the fridge. This is pretty much the 2-inch clearance required by most fridge manufacturers to allow for air circulation for the compressor in the back. So we have enough space for that. So that fridge is placed there. Now let's go ahead and start working with our cabinetry. So one of the cabinets that's going to probably belong in here, we should size it to this window where it's 2'8", right? And we can find that out going into our edit type. As you can see, the width is 2'8", which means a 32-inch cabinet. So under Architectural tab, Build Panel, I'm going to select Component, type in Casework, or you can type in Base Cabinets. So my base cabinet says 32 inches or 36 inches. This is a corner cabinet. We can use that as well. We have a base cabinet that's 30 or 33. I'm going to go ahead and go in with a 33-inch base cabinet, which should be sufficient for our sink. With the wall behind me, I'm going to go ahead and select here. You can use Align, or I know that this corner is lining up, and since it's 1 inch bigger, I can simply MV and move it over ½ an inch. Now, this is just purely for aesthetics. Again, I can simply go under this elevation tag that I have created and create a new elevation here. And the reason I'm using these interior elevation is so I can see what's going on the inside. That I have a cabinet that is associated with the sink, which lines up perfectly with this window. So I'm trying to align with the window first, and then I will fill in the cabinets around it. I can also use DI to see what this gap is. And since this is 1'3¼ I can have a 1 foot 12 inches 15-inch cabinet there, leaving a 1/4 inch on the exterior on this side. We could do that. So let's go back into our first floor and let's keep placing our base cabinets in. So going back into the Architectural tab, Build Component, and then over here we can go in with the cabinets that's 18, or again, they're going in by 3 inches. So 15-inch base cabinets would work. This would be a single door using spacebar. Align it to the back and to the edge of this cabinet. And I aligned it perfectly. So there we go. And then there's a counter that overhangs across. Next, let's go ahead and address the cabinets here. So under Architectural tab, Build Panel, and before I go there, let's do DI to get a distance from here to here. That's 1'11". So 24 inches would be ideal, but we're gonna have to go with 21 inch and then probably go in with a filler. So Architectural tab, Build Components, and I'm gonna go in with a 21-inch cabinet. Again, The best thing about Revit is you're able to already start seeing cabinetry. You're already able to start seeing how these things are going to get laid out. And I'm simply just lining them up. Over here, we have an additional base cabinet here, DI, and we have 1'1". And on this side, we have 1'3", which would give us a 15-inch cabinet altogether. So what I can do is go in and give this a 12-inch cabinet. So architectural tab, components, come here, and give it a 12-inch cabinet here. Again, the back of my cabinets are placed against the wall, align. And then there's a lip of the counter. And then on this side, we have 1'5". So architectural tab, build panel, components, and we're gonna go 15 inches. I said 1'5", I mean 15 inches. So align that with the back of the wall. And now when we look at our elevation, we have counter, we have, that's going to be filler. Again, this is all being caught here. And we can simply move these out of the way and have our interior elevation pretty much drawn for us. We do have upper cabinets, so let's go ahead and address those as well. Going back into our first floor plan, upper cabinets will appear here. So I can look at my AutoCAD drawing, and it says the upper cabinet spans all the way across from here, all the way around until it gets around the sink. It leaves a little bit of space, and then I have small amount of upper cabinet here as well. Let's get a dimension of that upper cabinet here. It's about 10 inches or 10 foot 9/16, which doesn't even exist. We're gonna either go with a 9 or 12 inch, whatever fits there, and then leave about enough space for our trim. And we can look at that in our elevation. So let's go ahead and get started with that. So the one above the refrigerator, I'm gonna go under the architectural tab, build panel. I'm going to select components, and let's look at our upper cabinets. And what we can do with our upper cabinet is we could have a corner unit here, and we could do a lot of things, but what I like to do is have them align across as we go across the top. So one thing we're going to do is I'm going to probably align the cabinet that goes over the refrigerator with the same width as the one that's over the stove. So they line up there, and then there's a cabinet above here. So let's go ahead and first put in our 15-inch cabinet that goes on the upper. Let's do the 15-inch here. That lines up here. Again, the whole point is we're making sure things are lining up. We're making sure, again, everything needs to have a specific aesthetics. So that's the upper cabinet there. So once I have this lined up, what I'm going to do is use DI, tab select, is 3'6". So that would be 36 plus 6, 42. But instead of using a 42-inch cabinet, I think we should go 3 inches under and do a 3'9", allowing us to have some breathing space, and then we can probably put fillers in. So a 39-inch upper cabinet. Another thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go into the elevation, and I'm going to see what is the height to the actual cabinet from the top of the fridge. So as I go across the top, it should be 1'2". So the height of the cabinet should be 12 plus 2, which is 14 inches, and it should be placed roughly 5'10" above. So we can coordinate all of that by going under the architectural tab, components, and then I'm going to go ahead and specify a 39-inch cabinet. Click on edit type, duplicate this cabinet, and then say 39-inch refrigerator. Press OK. And now, what was the height again? Instead of 2'6", we're going to be doing a 1'2". And then the top of the cabinet stays at 7 feet. And the width stays that same. I'm going to go ahead and press OK. And then when I place this cabinet, notice how I can also place this in elevation. Under my 3D, you can start seeing cabinets come into play. You can start seeing a lot of things that are happening here. I can go and switch it to this side. As you can see, we're getting a pretty nice kitchen being placed in here. I'm going to go back to my first floor. I have upper cabinets to place all across here. We can simply look at some of the upper base cabinets that we have that we want to line up to. And this is a 15-inch base cabinet. And I can simply AL and align depth of my counter to my base cabinet. That would just make it a little more efficient. And then over here, 15-inch. So I'll go to Architectural tab, Build, Components. And over here, my upper cabinet, 15-inch. Place it on this wall, making sure it lines up with everything else. Distance between here and here. Understand that there's a window involved there. So maybe this cabinet needs to shrink. Again, I'm looking at my elevation here, and this cabinet wouldn't work. Select the cabinet, switches to 12 inches, and this is how I would use align and simply shift my cabinets over. I could also use the mirror command if I want the doors to open from one side or the other. And I could do that by simply going mirror along axis. And now I have a cabinet that's here that opens this way. I can also do that for my cabinets. Now, I'm particularly peculiar about my details, but it's really up to you how you're going to detail it. Now from here, let's go ahead and bring some upper cabinets across. Just like we shrunk 3 inches on this side, because this is 21, we can do an 18-inch upper cabinet and then align it to this edge. Go to first floor. And this is how you would be working when it comes to laying out your kitchen. You would bounce between interior elevation, exterior elevation. So Architectural tab, we're going to go under our components, select here, upper cabinets, 18 inches. Place my 18-inch upper cabinet here. And I'm going to use AL, and this time I'm aligning it in plan. And now since I have that space, I have a corner cabinet that I need to cover. So Architectural tab, I'm going to select back to components. This goes right here. Make sure I'm aligning it with the right places. And what I've just found out is that I have too much space between this cabinet and this cabinet, and there's enough space that is 3 inches and above. So I can literally upgrade this cabinet to a 21-inch, but this time align it this way, and I would still have room for the trim. And then lastly, I have a cabinet that I need to place from here to there, and it should be 1'2". But since I don't have that 1'2" that can span all the way across, I'm going to make it 1 feet. So under Architectural tab, Build panel, select component, and my upper cabinet is going to be 12 inches. Now, ideally, I would line it up this way and leave some space. AL, align it here. Now, you're particular for detail. I would start looking at fillers, adding pieces of wood or things to actually finish this out. Keep this lined up. And now I'm going to try to span a cabinet all the way across the top here. Again, we could keep it the same distance. We could see if we can actually build in a microwave or a vent hood. But again, as we were specifying for this one, we're going to keep the same refrigerator cabinet, but this time I'm going to modify that one to fit 2'6". So 2'6" would mean that this cabinet is 30 inches wide. And I'm going to simply take this same cabinet, I'm going to go to Edit Type, and I'm going to duplicate, and this time I'm going to call it 30 inches. And instead of refrigerator, we can call it range. Press OK. And now the width of the cabinet is 2'6". Press OK. I'm going to change this back to the refrigerator one, and I'm going to place architectural tab, component, and I'm going to go ahead and place my upper cabinet, that is the range one, here. AL to align with that edge, and we got our upper cabinet in. Should we need a microwave, we could actually have enough space for that. Again, I'm designing this on the spot. 1'4" would be sufficient. We could go with a vent hood too. I can go into the architectural tab, build components, and here, see if we even have a microwave in here, which we don't. Trying to work with what we have. Let's see, vent hood. No vent hood, so we got to go to load family. Under load family, I'm going to step out of casework altogether, and under here we can go under specialty equipment. We can select domestic. We can look at range hood here, and this will be provided to you. We can look at a microwave. Now, if this microwave fits the description, I can click open. So once we have our microwave in, we can go under the architectural tab, click components, and we won't be allowed to place it in our elevation view. Go to first floor, spin my microwave around using the space bar, place it right over the range, like so. Go under my 3D. As you can see, the microwave is here. We can align it to the top. We can move it. Go under my elevation. As you can see, the microwave is placed directly on top of the range, which is not ideal. And we can simply go into AL, aligning this edge to the top of the microwave, which would go right there. And use DI to see the distance between the microwave and this, which is not too much. We can go ahead and shrink the upper cabinet by 2 inches, and we'll do the same thing for this. So I can simply select here and click on edit type. This was a refrigerator cabinet. Instead of the height being 1'2", we'll just make it 1 feet flat. Press apply, press OK, and then aligning this to the top. So now we have space all the way around our refrigerator. I'm going to do the same thing here. I'm going to take my upper cabinet that's actually for the range, click edit type, and now I'm going to make the height for that is also as 1 foot. Press OK. Then using AL to align to the upper cabinets, and then aligning the microwave as well. So therefore the microwave is flush with the upper cabinets. Now I can also manipulate my upper cabinet here, but we will actually deal with this by drawing detail lines and creating a filler here as we do the interior elevation. But pretty much the interior elevation is drawn for you. And over here, there will be an additional filler, which would go all the way to the pantry, and this would finish out your kitchen. Going into my first floor plan, everything is practically laid out at this point. I'm gonna go ahead and put in my stack washer and dryer here. Now, stack washer and dryers are not too common. These are definitely specialty equipment, so I'm gonna go ahead and load it in. And for you guys, this will be provided. So under Insert tab, Load Family, I am going to stay in my specialty equipment, domestic, and I'm gonna scroll down where it says washer and dryer stack. I'm gonna press open. Once I have that, under Architectural tab, Build Components, my stack washer and dryer will go here. I'm gonna use the space bar to rotate, check it out in 3D to see if it's being placed in the right orientation, which it is, and that's where my stack washer and dryer goes. Now, this is particularly for our cabin. Now, ideally, you don't want to have a washer and dryer in your kitchen, but in this case, we do. So that pretty much wraps up the kitchen interior. Now we have the bathroom to worry about. So going back to our first floor, I'm going to look at the bathroom here. According to the actual drawings that we have, this is our plumbing wall. And if this is our plumbing wall, it's a 2x6 because we need to have a toilet drain that runs through here, which is a 4-inch diameter pipe or 3.5-inch depending on how your domestic is wired. So you have a drain pipe for your bathroom, a drain pipe for your bathtub, and a drain pipe for your sink, along with the vent pipe that goes all the way to the ceiling. So all of this being inside here compromises the wall structurally, so it's better to go with a 2x6, which I agree. I would also insulate this wall because this wall faces the dining room, which is probably not the ideal place to be hearing your toilet flush, but hey, it's a small cabin. Let's go to Revit. So I'm gonna go ahead and click on 6.5-inch partition, bumping up the wall size, and it kept the same interior dimension, but the interior dimension is viable to change based on the bathtub size. Now, of course, the studs are doing something crazy here. This is all perfectly fine. The sole plate will line up. All of this will work itself out. Under the Architectural tab, Build panel, select Components. We're going to go ahead and select our bathtub, rectangular tub. We're going to go ahead and place it along this wall. And as we place it, I want it align AL to this corner. Tab select to align to this corner here. And it automatically is bigger than the wall that we have right now. So we have two choices, either to shrink our bedroom or to shrink this circulation space. I choose to shrink the circulation space because our bathtub can simply move the wall over, but our bedrooms shouldn't get smaller. So let's go ahead and move this over. So I'm gonna simply take my door and move this over to where it's 2'2". And now I can simply align my wall. I can move it over first like so, and then use AL to align to the edge of the tub. Therefore, the width of my bathroom is determined by my tub, which would make my bathtub or my interior of my bathroom be exactly 5 feet. So that's where my shower drain is. Now from here, DI, I'm gonna go ahead and put my toilet 18 inches away. So Architectural tab, Build Components, I'm gonna go ahead and select my toilet, Toilet Domestic 3D. I'm gonna go ahead and place my toilet here. DI from the tub to the center of the toilet. This gap should be 18 inches, so I'm gonna select the toilet and make this 18 inches. Once I have that, let's go ahead and put in our vanity sink. So I'm gonna go under the Architectural tab, Build, Component, select my vanity sink, round, spacebar, place my sink ideally here. And now what I'm gonna try to do is go into the Architectural tab, Components. Let's go ahead and put in a vanity countertop. So I'm gonna go ahead and type in countertop with 24-inch depth. This is gonna be a very tight bathroom. Let's make this happen. Select this. I can simply move the sink over to get the ideal location and then round these dimensions off as I actually place this in. Or I can DI and get very specific dimensions of what my countertop should be. So in this case, I could make it 2'6". So in this case, what I'm going to do is I'm gonna first center the sink there. I'm gonna move the actual sink to that location. And this is just simply eyeballing it. And then I'm gonna select the actual sink countertop, scroll down, and then look at what I'm looking at. So the length, I want that to be 2'6". Easy dimension to work with. Sink location, let's make that 1'4". Sink location to the wall, 4 inches is fine. Sink opening, 1'5", which is fair. So those are my countertop dimensions. And then I'm gonna simply take the entirety of the sink and align it to the edge of the wall. So I can use AL, or I'm gonna simply use MV so I don't manipulate the dimensions altogether, and place it against the edge of the wall. My sink is already placed in here. I can align the sink to the center of the actual cabinet that's going to go in there. And then this is how it's going to be placed. Now all my plumbing is going to be running from the left hand side or the right hand side. In this case, I'm probably going to have to run plumbing from this corner because there's not an ideal place a vanity countertop. So if I DI from here to here is 1'2", I should shrink this actual counter by an additional 4 inches. And since this is a cabin, I'll let this rule slide, but overall, it should be always 18 inches from the center of the toilet to any fixed wall or cabinetry. Now I'm going to go ahead and put in my base cabinets. It's 2'6", so architectural tab, build, select components, base cabinet, 30 inches with 2 drawers. We're going to go ahead and select that. Space bar to rotate my cabinet about, and I'm going to simply place it against the wall here, which lines up in the front. We can go ahead and drop an interior elevation in here as well. So I can go into the View tab, under Create Panel, select Elevation, and place my elevation here facing this way. Select the elevation, and as you can see, I have my countertop, toilet, bathtub placed in here. Now what I can do is go ahead and place my sink in here and place backsplash and surrounds, and we're going to be doing manipulating materials and all of that stuff. So let's go back to our first floor. I'm going to simply bring it in as a component. You can create this as a material, but insert, load family. Now, I don't have my mirror in here. It's in my download folder. So I can go under this PC, select downloads, and I can bring my mirror in here. And once I have my mirror, I can go into the architectural tab, components, and I have my mirror here. Now I have mirrors that are coming in as commercial mirrors. So these are very, very large mirrors. So I'm going to go ahead and click on edit type, select duplicate. And since my vanity is 30 inches, I'm going to go ahead and call this 30 inches. And we can make it a complete square mirror, 30 inches by 30 inches. And take away the 2, press OK. Scroll down here, the height of the mirror, 30 inches. The mounting height, we're going to have to manipulate this. Let's call this 3 feet. And then over here, the width being 30 inches. I'm going to hit apply, press OK. And now I'm going to place my mirror here. Using AL, I'm going to align the mirror to this edge right here. So my mirror goes on the wall. If I look at it in terms of view, my mirror is ideally placed here. And then let's look at our surrounding walls. We will create additional walls to finish out the rest of the bathroom, but all our permanent fixture and equipments are in. And if I go under 3D, as you can see, our bathroom is in here, as well as our kitchen counter and cabinets. And let's manipulate the section box just slightly so we can actually see all of the bathroom. So with that said, that concludes our exercise. Follow for more content.